I changed it up.
We are never going to get this intro right. We are never going to get it right. Then it might be a shtick. I mean, you can't.
It's going to be something different today.
It's going to be different.
Yeah.
Chanel Hollee.
And Loren Melanie. Yes, that's who we are.
What's cracking, y'all? This is Dipped with Sweet and my real name is Hollee Chanel. Okay.
And mine is Melanie Loren. And we're so glad to have you guys back with us. I say back because I assume that I know we have a lot of loyal listeners, but also welcome into the new listeners. Glad to have you as part of the party. Hello, new dippers as well.
I always wonder what brings people to be like to the podcast, like what hooks them.
Yeah. I think that it's probably a combination of things. It's probably the very interesting subject matters.
Fair.
And it's also word of mouth. I know that everybody that I talk to, at least who listens to our show, really enjoys it. And
true.
They're helping us spread the word. So however you got here, we're glad you're here.
It's so funny you say that because I was at karaoke the other night and the karaoke DJ had some trouble loading my song. And while I was holding the mic in this awkward situation, I was like, well, since we're all here, pull out your phones and tune into Dip with Sweet.
And I've done that as well. I had a whole moment, collective moment of subscribing.
Yes.
When I had a microphone in my hand recently. And speaking of subscribing, if you have not, this is the opportunity. So you can subscribe and follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast, as well as on YouTube. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can find out whenever we drop some new content. And here's the thing. There.
I feel like we say this every episode as if I feel like it's akin to the offering in church. But the great thing about this, as opposed to the offering at church, is that it costs you nothing.
That's true.
It costs you nothing.
These are all places where you can subscribe for free.
But you should put up a little offering in church, though. Whatever
you absolutely should.
Because I know times are hard, but put up a little offering in church.
You absolutely should. I am a witness. It's the best dollar you'll ever give.
This is true.
So anyway, we are back and we're continuing our season of Audacity. We're gonna delve into the audacity to apologize in this particular episode. It takes some audacity and we'll explain why. But before that, we got a little sweet and hot to do. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There is a lot going
simmering.
on.
I'm simmering.
Okay.
I'm on the power burner.
So my sweet is I just want to talk about this gift that my dad is giving me. So yeah, he has this credit on American Airlines left over from a flight that he booked but didn't get a chance to take last year.
Okay.
And he basically was just like, yeah, I asked him too. I was just like, because both of my parents do work in other places and have to travel for different things. And I tried to, I was like, well, what about this coming up? What about that coming up? He wants to give it to me. He wants to give the credit to me, and it's a nice little credit. I shouldn't even say little. It's a nice credit. And so he was just like, yeah, you just take it. Like, you take it and do what you want with it. So now that's sweet in and of itself, but it's also really sweet because now I got to thinking. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? So I have decided that I will use said credit to plan some sort of trip for my birthday.
Oh, I love this.
My birthday is not for several more months. However, it will be a special celebration for me. And so I am just now having the fun of like trying to think about where I want to go. And I got to hurry up too before this credit expires. But
listen, and before prices go up, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I'm just like having, that was very sweet of him to give that to me. And also the sweetness of like planning. If you listen to the show before, you know that like I enjoy traveling, and now I'm gonna be like trying to take some trip somewhere for my birthday. And so that's sweet. And so I'm happy about that.
That is
all right.
Awesome. Speaking of people taking trips.
Yeah.
I need the National Guard to take a trip back to where they came from and get out of my doggone city.
Yeah.
I need them to get out of my city.
Yeah. So if you're new here, you should know that Hollee and I met and developed our friendship for many years while we were both living in Chicago. And although I don't live in Chicago anymore, that is where I spent most of my life. And it's a city that's near and dear to my heart. I have a lot of people that I love who live in Chicago. And we got to talk about what's going on in Chicago.
Here's the thing.
Right now.
There's nothing going on in Chicago. They're the problem. Like, that's what's pissing me off so bad. Like, our entire news feed now, our local news feed, is about the terrorism that ICE has wrought on our city. And when I tell you that it is lawlessness, it is so dangerous. I am a Chicagoan from the 90s when murders were nearing the 1000s for a year. And I have never been more afraid to live in my city than I do now.
And it's worth noting that the statistics, the number of homicides is way less than that right now, is what you're saying.
Oh my God. So a few things. Chicago just completed its safest summer in 60 years.
And I would like to say, as someone who used to work in the news, that's remarkable because, well, it's just remarkable in and of itself. But also, I used to work in local news in Chicago and on the weekends. So I spent much of my work each week and weekend covering how many people shot or died, or how many people got shot or died violently over that weekend. So I have a real perspective about that too.
So 60 years, safest summer. Second thing, violent crime in the city. And this is actually supported by the BBC, is down approximately 1/3 year to year, 24 to 25. And then the last problem that I have with all of this was that when it came to the migrant situation, Chicago was totally minding its own business. We had governors from red controlled states who spent millions of dollars, 20 million to be exact, from Texas Governor Abbott, busing migrants
and just dropping them off.
And they're just dropping them
in downtown
off
Chicago and in other locations.
In democratic cities, including downtown Chicago. Migrants were forced to live in municipal buildings, including our police stations, for months.
This was all last year.
This was all 2024.
So I lived in Chicago in 2024 and worked downtown everywhere.
There were
everywhere with no plans, no.
There were tent encampments in front of every single police station in this city. Because they had nowhere to drop off, or they had nowhere to house all of these migrants that were dropped off in our city. Our mayor got in trouble for trying to find one place to put all of these people, so at least that we could band together all the resources to serve these folks. And guess what? Chicago did it. We live to tell about it. And our crime rates decreased in the process of. And you got nerve to send these rogue ICE agents and now the National freaking Guard because Chicago's out of control. The only thing you are doing is creating unrest and inciting riot to support a false narrative. I'm not going to sit up here and let me be a responsible podcaster. I'm not going to sit up here and say that Chicago is the safest city in the world. Right. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I haven't seen some things and that in my estimation, our local news feed is still too traumatic for my liking.
Mm-hmm.
However, I can say that when you report over a holiday weekend that only 50 people were shot and a fraction of that actually lost their lives, again, as a child who grew up in 90s Chicago when Larry Hoover was running rampant and during the government orchestrated crack epidemic, those are excellent holiday numbers.
Yeah, so we need context, is what you're saying. We need context. And also the timing is interesting. So it's like, you know, now that the numbers are actually on the decline, why is this happening now? And there are probably a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions about that, but you hot about it. Like you are hot about the occupation of your American city.
Well, the other thing though too is how bad can it be? Condé Nast just voted Chicago 9th year in a row best American city.
There's a lot. Chicago does definitely get a bad rap. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day because being someone from Chicago in another city now, I tell people from Chicago, and a lot of times the conversation goes to that stereotypical like, oh, it's rough up there. Like, and I find myself saying, hold on. Hold on.
I can talk about Chicago, but you can't talk about Chicago.
Well, not only that,
I'm sorry.
Yes,
that's me.
No, that's also me. But not only that, let me educate you a little bit about Chicago as a whole, because there is one narrative that gets told a lot. Whereas if you are actually someone who has lived and breathed and worked and had a life in Chicago, you recognize that that is a gross oversimplification. It is a beautiful city. There are a lot of places and a lot of people in Chicago who are quite peaceful. And I just hate to see it lumped together, like, you know, labeled like that so simplistically.
So you know what? To bring it full circle, Chicago is owed an apology. Chicago is owed an apology. But and the last thing I'm gonna say on the subject. We can
have a whole show about this.
We could, but shout out to my mayor. Shout out to my mayor. Go
ahead and say his name.
Brandon Johnson. He is with the ish. Let me tell you, this man, his daily press conferences have become my new favorite petty. This man got on. It was like, Governor Abbott, why are you sending your National Guard up here? We were minding our own business. Why you all in Chicago situation? Like, he went and he was like, do y'all know that y'all's minimum wage is $7.25?
Hey, my guy, you got bigger fish to fry.
Was like, you got ish to do, my guy.
You take care of your own state, okay? Because y'all got some issues.
And then look, my petty self, I posted it on Facebook and I was like, Governor Abbott, if you don't go on and sit down somewhere, oh, wait. So anyway, Chicago's owed an apology.
Mayor Johnson is with the ish, and you are too.
And I am too. If you don't get the joke, Google Governor Abbott.
Yeah. So speaking of apologies, right?
Yeah. Speaking and I'm not apologizing for that. Go ahead.
That's fine. I wouldn't ask you to.
So anyway, yeah. Speaking of apologies, your story time kind of threw me for a loop, homie.
Did it?
It did. Because I'm gonna tell you why. I'm like, if we're exes, why are we rehashing things? Like, I don't understand.
Why are you on my phone?
Like, was this necessary?
Valid questions. And to be perfectly honest, he probably thought the same thing. Like, these are probably, I have no idea. He didn't voice that to me, but I'm sure when he saw my name pop up on his phone, he was like,
the hell?
What? So let me review quickly for those of you who did not hear my story time at the end of last week's episode. Basically, I described a situation where, after some reflection, I decided that I was in the wrong in a situation that happened between me and someone that I was dating previously. And because I need to be who I say I am, and because it was important to me, I picked up the phone. I reached out to said ex. I apologized for what I felt like I did wrong. And it had been 4 years since we had any contact. I picked up that phone and cold reached out to this man 4 years later. I had the audacity to go back and to apologize for something that happened 4 years before. And so that's why Hollee is kind of like, was this necessary? What value did this bring? Okay, so now I know you have another question simmering. If you don't have it yet, it's probably coming. So I'm going to go ahead and beat you to it, which is, Melanie, what did you do that you felt like you really had to go back 4 years later and apologize to this man? Okay, so long story short, this was someone that I was dating. And this was someone that I was dating years ago. And he and I were not in an exclusive relationship. It's important to say that. My thought is always and has been that until we say that we are exclusive, I'm going to assume that you are seeing other people and that I'm free to see other people until we have had that discussion where we say that we're not. And we had not had that discussion. So I met someone else and I started dating someone else as well. Now, not a problem, right? Not a problem, not a problem. What I felt like I needed to apologize for was the way that I handled it and the lack of transparency around the fact that I was seeing someone else. Okay. So I was in a show at the time. And if you're someone that I invite to, well, I am happy to say that most of the men that I've invited to a show have come, right?
Did you get caught up, Mel?
I didn't get caught up because I said something to not get caught up, and it was insensitive, and it probably pissed him off the way that I said it. So what happened was I was having a discussion with him about coming to see the show. I was always really grateful for his support. So he was just like, like, tell me when to come. And so we're talking about it. And I said, oh, you can come this day, the 16th, the 17th, the 23rd, the blah, 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 blah. Just don't come on the 20th. And I said it bluntly, just like that. Matter of fact, this was via text.
But did he ask why?
He never asked why.
Okay.
He never asked why, but I have to give you some context here. What I should have done for my own moral compass, I understand if this is no one else's moral compass, but we're talking about my moral compass now. What I felt like I should have done, especially because there was no expectation of exclusivity, I should have just said, hey, I don't want you to come. This might get awkward because like I'm seeing someone else and the 20th is just not a good day. Like, because he's coming on the 20th or whatever. But I felt uncomfortable with saying that because let me give you this context. The first guy that I had been dating for a while, we had a number of conversations where he had expressed to me that he was interested in being exclusive. Like he wanted to be in an exclusive relationship. I wasn't ready for that. And I said as much and he accepted that. So there was no dishonesty there. But when I started to see the other guy and I started dating the other guy, in my mind, I was like, if I tell this man that I've been dating for a long time, who has been asking me and has expressed interest in being in a relationship with me, and I tell him, I'm not ready to be in a relationship with you. Oh, by the way, there's someone else. I just was like, there's no way that this is going to go well. And it was the anticipating the uncomfortable nature of what I felt like that discussion would be like that I decided to avoid that open and honest discussion all the way and just say, hey, don't come on the 20th. And what I believe happened is he looked at that text and was like, Okay. Like, he's not an idiot. You know what I mean? He looked at that text, was like, bet. How about I don't come at all? And he didn't. I never heard from him ever again. After I sent that text, I never heard from him ever again. So fast forward, I'm going to give you your turn because you've had a whole myriad. She's so silent right now. If you're listening to this instead of watching it, she has gone through so many different gestures and postures. She is disapproving of this whole thing. So I'm gonna let her say her piece after I say this. So after 4 years, I was like, Melanie, transparency, honesty, these are things that are very important to you. And you could have been straight up with that man. That's not who you say you are. So I picked up the phone, reached out. He answers the phone like, hey, what's up? Like, very much like, what the hell? And so I basically just said, hey,
as he should have.
Let me finish. I said, hey, look, I'm not gonna take up a whole lot of your time. I just called you because I was thinking about the way that things ended between us, and I realized that I feel like I didn't handle that well. Here's why I did that the way that I did it. I should have just been straight up with you and told you what was really going on at the time, that I was seeing somebody else that I liked and I didn't want y'all at my show at the same time. But I didn't do that, and I'm sorry, because I should have been straight up with you, about it. And so that is my apology story. Now, before I tell you how he responded, go ahead and say what you got.
No. I want to know how he responded. Nope. I want to know how my man's
problem sharing how he responded.
4 years later, how did he respond?
What he said was, he paused for a second, and then he was me to be able to say this to you. So I appreciate you taking the call, whatever. And so he basically was like, hey, I respect the fact that you felt like convicted and conflicted around the fact that you didn't handle this, because this came out of a moment of prayer for me. Like, and I just felt like the spirit was like, hey, that wasn't right. And so he was like, I appreciate your obedience to the spirit, and like, you wanting to correct this. He was like, he was like, I gotta keep a buck with you. I don't remember this. He was like, I don't remember the situation that you're talking about. Now, let me put a pin in that and say, okay. I questioned whether or not that was actually true. And the reason that I say that I questioned whether or not that was actually true is because it was significant enough for you to never speak to me again. It was significant enough that it was literally the last time that I spoke to you or that you said anything to me. And that it was about coming to my show, and you never came to the show. Not only did you never speak to me ever again, you had reached out about coming to the show, and you made a decision not to come to the show, and I never heard from you again. So that's why I'm saying, you don't remember that this happened? Okay. And if you don't, that's possible. I'm acknowledging that possibility. I'm also acknowledging that it was significant at the time. So anyway, that's what happened. What do you have to say?
Question, Melanie.
Yes.
After you text him when you wanted him to come to the show outside of the 20th. I'm sorry, I'm petty. Did you reach out to him again after that?
No, because I was like, which day you want to come? I had asked him a question. I was like, just don't come on the 20th. Pick whichever day.
Question. Since you sent that last text message, the next time he heard from you was 4 years later.
Yep.
Girl.
Why? What's going on in your head?
I'm sorry, Melanie. I gotta talk to Dipped with Sweet and Hot Public for a second. Um, I have to give a disclaimer. Dear Dipped with Sweet and Hot Public, I was not consulted at all before she went on this particular leg of this apology tour. Had I been consulted, I probably would have made a few adjustments, if not derailed the entire thing. I really, please do not let this be a reflection on the veracity, which the voraciousness with which I approach friendship, especially best friendship. I do my best and I work with what I am given. Okay, so that is my disclaimer, and it's later on, but I'm gonna try to make up for it now. Now back to you, Melanie. Okay,
why is that necessary?
Because
I was that whole little.
First of all, you read way too much.
Did I?
Oh my God, you read too much.
We had been hanging out for like 2 years, Hollee, and then all of a sudden, cold turkey. I don't hear from you anymore.
Let me tell you something, Melanie. If this is who I think it is, you have been curbing him for 2 years, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Fair enough, but is that not reason to apologize?
You don't have to apologize. Just let the sleeping dog lie. He did you a favor and bowed out.
Well, I felt like that's an assumption that's being made. It's an assumption that's being made that he received that as, okay, let me just bow out.
Okay, I'm gonna just tell you a personal truth that I know about you. You are not fit for polyamory. You are not fit for dating multiple people at one time, and you
gotten better at that.
And you damn sure ain't fit for cheating. I just listen, and it is something to be said. You have an amazing conscience, and I love this, and this is why we are friends. But
listen, I told somebody this the other day. I have to be able to live with myself. And I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror. And one of the things that I hate is hypocrisy.
That's fair. That's fair.
I hate hypocrisy and a lack of accountability. I pride myself on the fact that I am truthful and I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And I was like, you didn't do that. You didn't do that. And it was significant enough with a man who had not done anything to harm you.
Yeah.
He hadn't done anything. He had been only, nice, respectful. The entire time that we were dating, he never did anything wrong to me. Okay. And so I felt, and even if he was dating someone else, he never said anything so dismissive to me as don't come on the 20th.
Well, and so here's where I'm going. Like, if you say don't come on the 20th, I don't know what that means. And I'm not gonna assume that means that another dude is gonna be there. It could be don't come on the 20th because I'm not gonna be working that day, or my family is coming and it's just too much for me to do, or I'm going on in an understudy role. Like, it could have been anything, man.
It could have been a number of things. My point is, it was out of character for him not to ask.
Well, yeah,
and I say that based on my prior, like, just knowing him and my prior communication with him.
And that's why I had to give a disclaimer, because it was my responsibility to tell you that he was just getting off the merry-go-round. He was just like, I'm good.
Fair enough. I'm not debating that. I'm not debating that he was just getting off the merry-go-round.
But you bring up an excellent point, though, about the audacity to apologize. And I was being 70%.
You feel like an apology wasn't really necessary.
But I was being 70% facetious about my disclaimer, 70% facetious. But I will say that if you're going to do it, you went into it, in my estimation, correctly by saying, this was on my heart and it was for me, and knowing that I did this, like, it was, and again, you're saying it is important for you to have that integrity, and I agree with that, and I love that, and I think that is a good message for this podcast in this episode, where an apology is not always for the other person, it's for you too.
And it's interesting you say that, because I think there's it depends on how you look at it too. Like, because I did some research around apologizing and why it is such an audacious act to apologize. And some of it is about where is your focus at the time. Yeah. Is your focus on you and your experience, or is your focus on the other person and their experience? So I think there's some nuance there with like how you interpret it. But I hear what you're saying. Like I freely said, hey, it's been 4 years. This probably means nothing to you at this point. But I'm willing to put myself out there with you and have this awkward conversation to pick up the phone and talk to you, because it's valuable to me for me to stand up and be who I say I am. And also to treat somebody how I would want to be treated. Exactly. That's the other thing. So I'm not disagreeing with that. Like, he just got off the merry-go-round. Yeah, he obviously got off the merry-go-round. But to me, it was the way that I handled the situation to cause him to get off the merry-go-round. And I could have been more transparent, and I could have been more open and honest about what the deal was. And it didn't meet the point is, it didn't meet my standard for honesty. It didn't. And I was not as honest and transparent with him as I would have wanted him to be with me, which brings up another point about empathy. Because some of you might be listening, and some of you might be the kind of person where it's not hard for you to apologize. There may be other people who are listening. It's very hard for you to admit when you're wrong. If you are really honest with yourself, you don't got to be telling nobody else, but it's hard for you to say, I was wrong. It's especially hard for you to come back after a long time has passed and say, hey, I was wrong. And there's some reasons behind why it's so hard to apologize. So I got into my like research nerd bag about this a little bit. Okay. And I looked up a couple of articles that were published on Psychology Today. .com, and also I watched a TED Talk that a psychologist gave about why it is so hard for us to say I'm sorry. And basically, like, it boils down to a couple of different things. One of the things that it boils down to is the fact that apologies can feel like, according to this author, I'm citing James Kerr, who was a leadership coach, Dr. Tyler Okamoto, who was a professor at the University of Queensland, and Dr. Michael Ballard, who was a licensed psychologist who gave the TED Talk. They said that apologizing can feel like a diminishing of the self. Right? That's one of the reasons. The second reason, apologizing can feel like you are giving up power and control in that human interaction. It's audacious to apologize also because there's a vulnerability that happens there. You're basically opening yourself up to the possibility that the person that you are apologizing to can either, you're putting power in their hands, because they can either hold your apology against you and claim a moral superiority over you, making you feel worse than you already do about what happened, or they can graciously accept it. But the point is, you're going in blind. Right. And just like I didn't know how he was going to react to me, he could have literally cussed me out and been like, get off my phone. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I would have had risk you had to take. My point is, that's what makes it audacious. That's you're vulnerable to whatever their response is going to be, and you don't know what it's going to be. Yep. And so those are some of the things. Like I took some other notes, and I'm just gonna scroll through right now to see if there's anything else. But like, it's based on the idea that we are often in a power struggle in a relationship, whether it's been romantic, familial, friends, or whatever. And you basically lose points you lose some of your power by giving that power of like reaction to the other. I'm sorry.
And I think it's just a perspective.
It is. It's the way you feel. It's in your mind.
It's in your mind, because I think there is something powerful in taking accountability, right?
Absolutely.
Like I'll never forget when I was working in radio, and I went way over and didn't run a commercial when I was supposed to. And so, I made up for it, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the shift, I went to the program director called me into his office. And before he could get anything out his mouth, I said, there is no way that you could be more disappointed in me or upset with me than I am with myself. I am so sorry, and it will not happen again. And he said, you know what he said? He said, have a good day, Miss Hollee. And I walked out his office.
And that's it. And that's it. And that's what I'm saying. So you already feel bad.
Yeah, man.
If you're honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And so it takes audacity to open yourself up to a situation where you could apologize to somebody, they could reject your apology, and you feel even worse. So there is a risk involved that we have to overcome if we're going to have the audacity to apologize. The other things is that some of the things that they mentioned is that we're perfectionists sometimes, and we associate wrongdoing with like a diminishing of our value as a person. So in other words, you can't separate the fact that you made a mistake from the fact that you're not a bad person. Like that's two different things. Like your self-worth and your ability to make mistakes, those are two different things, and we conflate the two.
People don't know that. People don't understand that.
They don't understand that. And so there's a lot that can happen. But the real reason that the guy in the TED Talk, Dr. Ballard, said was that we struggle with empathy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's what's wrong
with the country right now.
That's what's wrong with the world. Like, we struggle to understand someone else's point of view. Pride whispers in our ear, he said, that you're right. And so we make excuses. But so it's about ego, it's about pride, and it's about your unwillingness to really confront and try to understand what someone else's experience in that situation was like.
Oh, Israel, anybody? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One of the experts that I was talking about came back and said the ability to sincerely apologize is a crucial skill, because a genuine apology has the power to heal wounds and rebuild trust. And I know this is something that you have talked about before, is like, what is a genuine apology? And like, how do we actually, if we want to have the audacity to apologize because we know that's the right thing to do and we know that we should, what are the characteristics of a genuine apology? How do we do it the right way?
So it's so funny. I was chuckling a little bit because, I feel like every episode Dippers find out something else that I do. So
you wear a lot of hats.
I wear a lot of hats. So speaking of cute.
Yeah, that's a cute one.
Thank you. But another hat that I wear is as a facilitator and a coach for management and for groups and teams and things of that nature. And so last year I actually delivered a workshop, a 90-minute workshop on how to apologize. And I remember being a teenager. And I was dating this dude that went to Hell's Franciscan.
Okay.
And I found out that he was cheating on me with this girl. And I confronted him, and he was like, I'm sorry that you feel that I did you wrong. And it was at that point, like, I went to a couple friends, and I was like 15 years old. And I was like, you apologizing for the wrong shit. I don't need you to apologize for my feeling. You did wrong.
Right. You can't apologize for me.
You can't apologize for me. You did apologize for what the hell you.
Right,
did.
right.
So, which brings me to the first thing on how to apologize. Acknowledge the offense. Take responsibility for the offense, whether it was physical or psychological, whatever it was. Take responsibility for it.
With I statements. I did. I said
confirm that your behavior was unacceptable. That's the other thing. And furthermore, anything that begins or in the middle has a but, anything after that, you've negated everything in front of it. Okay.
And I'll go a step further because the researcher said this. Anything that had if, but,
yep,
that like, I'm sorry if you, I'm sorry
no,
you feel,
no,
I'm sorry, but you, like all of that with those conditionals, that's you're saying, nope. And I'm agreeing with you, and the experts agree, that's not an apology.
And then avoid using vague language. Because, be specific about what you did, because that helps me understand. That helps me know that you understand what you did. And if you understand what you did and you understand the consequences of that, then you'll not do that again. Mm-hmm. So be specific. Mm-hmm. And then.
So you trying to say that like it was somebody, because I've had this happen before. Oh, I'm sorry. What are you sorry about? I mean, everything. Wait a minute.
No.
That's not an apology. I just need to clear that up for somebody.
So then that brings me to the next one. Explain what happened. Explain what happened. The challenge is to explain how the offense occurred without excusing it. This is when those if and but statements and all of those interjections come in. This is, you can explain and say something to the effect of, this does not excuse my behavior. I was outside of my body and I know what I did was wrong. And for that, that's an explanation and not an excuse. Okay. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the best strategy is just to say that there is no excuse. Just, and then express your remorse, and people take that for granted, but literally like half of our penal system is built on criminals expressing remorse, and that determines your length of jail time or whether or not you get parole. So remorse is important. And then lastly, offer to make amends. Now, with the understanding that you may not be received well. In school, it was like, do you accept so-and-so's apology? And you felt compelled to say yes. We grown now. People don't always have to say yes.
That's right.
I've actually had that experience where I committed an offense against a woman, and in real time, I apologized profusely to her because I realized, and I told her what it had. I told her where my perspective was and where I was going, but then I didn't realize that the unintended consequence was that I hurt her. Mm-hmm. And that woman was like, yeah, and ain't messed with me since. Mm-hmm. To the point where I approached a friend of hers who was a dress designer. And I said, hey, I was like, are you designing any dresses? Like, I was looking for something more casual. And he was like, I would, but my friend don't fuck with you. So I was like, I said, you know what? Touche, and that's fair. And I appreciate your honesty. And I walked away.
And that's why it's audacious.
Exactly. So if you damage somebody's property, replace it. Don't just walk away and say, oh, my bad. Or offer something like, even if you don't have money, payment plans.
Or I'm gonna go right here. Also, if you don't know, ask, how can I make this right?
Exactly. And I will say this, because throughout the duration of this episode, we have been talking about this in the context of interpersonal and more intimate relationships, partners and friendships. But this also works at work.
Absolutely.
This is
human interaction anywhere.
Human anywhere. It works.
This is people everywhere. That's on the bus with you that you don't even know.
Yes.
You stepped on their foot and you didn't realize it. You know what I mean?
My apologies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to.
Right.
So, I'll stop it there. But, I want to reiterate, what makes an apology for real, an apology long term is change behavior and endeavor and using what you have learned and applying to other realms as well, where you might be offending someone. So,
and I'll just also add that it's so beautiful because I have had experiences. I'm just encouraging the audacity that's inside you, dippers, to rise up to the surface and challenge yourself to be audacious in your apologies. Because I have experienced it where there are relationships in my life that have been mended, and I don't mean just romantic. I'm talking about human connection that have been mended because we had the audacity to sit down, talk about the real. I apologize. They apologized, and we were able to have something beautiful after that. So it's very rewarding. Now, 100%. For story time. Hollee, you ever been laying in your bed late at night, maybe sit in the car? Because I know sometimes we both do this thing where we sit in the car for a long time after we get home and we just like scroll through the phone.
Yeah.
And you got nervous when I said laying in your bed, like your eyes did like this thing.
I was like, where are we going? I don't really talk about what happens in my bed a lot. Like
we keep it in PG.
I've been cussing all through this episode. My bad.
Scrolling through IG is what I'm saying. You know, the pastime and the time suck that is social media.
The death scroll.
And we, you ever been scrolling and you come across gold?
Oh, unmitigated. Yeah.
There's gold. So we both had this experience recently, and it resonated with us because we've been talking about Audacity all season. And you stumbled upon first.
I did.
A content creator,
baby,
that has created a whole 100+ series around Audacity.
It's the gift that keeps giving.
And it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so funny because what he has done is creatively created these role play scenarios where he plays both sides of a conversation
with a t-shirt.
He plays both sides of a conversation where something offensive is said.
Right.
An infraction is committed and shines a light on the audacity of that person. So I just say all that to say, we're going to have some fun next week. Because we're gonna delve into something. We're gonna share a little bit about some stuff that's been making us laugh around this whole idea of Audacity. So you don't want to miss that next week, and maybe you'll understand why I've spent many hours in my bed, in my car, on my couch,
scrolling.
Right. So until then, I'm Melanie Loren,
and I'm Hollee Chanel, and this has been Dipped with Sweet and Hot.
Love y'all.
See you next time.